Before I begin this story, I want to ask you something important. Please take a second to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who believes in love or has felt heartbreak. Your support means the world, and it helps us keep sharing stories that truly touch the heart. Now, let me take you into a story that isn't just about betrayal. It's about how a single sentence can destroy everything you thought was unbreakable. David never believed that his marriage could collapse so suddenly. He thought his wife Emily was his forever, his partner, his safe place. But one evening, in the quiet glow of their dining room, she looked him straight in the eyes and said words that would shatter his world completely. "I don't need you." And the worst part, she meant every word. David and Emily had been married for almost 10 years. To the outside world, they looked like the picture-perfect couple. Their little house on the corner street was always alive with the sound of children's laughter. Sarah, their 7-year-old, with her boundless energy, and Michael, their quiet 5-year-old, who followed his sister everywhere she went. Neighbors often admired how Emily would walk Sarah to school every morning, her hand gently resting on her daughter's shoulder. And on weekends, David could be seen mowing the lawn, sometimes chasing the kids around with a garden hose, their giggles echoing into the evening air. But behind the closed doors of their home, things weren't as seamless as they appeared. David worked long hours at his office, often coming home exhausted. He told himself he was doing it for the family, for a better future, for the promotion he'd been chasing for months. Emily, however, saw things differently. To her, his absence at the dinner table and his distracted conversations meant more than he realized. She would sit by the window some evenings, scrolling endlessly through her phone, the glow reflecting in her tired eyes. When David tried to talk, her replies were short, almost mechanical, as if her mind was somewhere else entirely. But David brushed it off. He thought, this is just marriage. Every couple has ups and downs. The missed dinners, the unspoken frustrations, the moments where silence stretched too long across the room. It was all part of life, wasn't it? In his heart, David believed they would bounce back. He believed that the bond they had built through years of shared memories, late-night talks, and raising children together was strong enough to withstand any storm. What he didn't realize was that Emily had been carrying a storm of her own, a quiet, unspoken storm that grew louder with each passing day. And within that storm, a single sentence had been rehearsed over and over in her mind. A sentence that would bring their entire world crashing down. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening. The children had already gone upstairs, their giggles fading into soft whispers before bedtime. The house felt unusually quiet, almost heavy, as David sat at the dining table with a half-empty cup of coffee. Across from him sat Emily. The low glow of the lamp cast shadows across her face. But David noticed how her fingers kept circling the rim of her glass, over and over, as if she was waiting for the right moment to speak. "Emily," he asked gently, breaking the silence. "You've been quiet all day. Is something wrong?" Her eyes lifted, calm but distant. For a moment, David thought she might finally open up about what was bothering her. He leaned forward, ready to listen, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. "David," she said slowly, her voice cold, rehearsed, almost detached. "I don't need you." The words landed like stones in the pit of his stomach. At first, he laughed nervously, shaking his head. "That's not funny, Emily. Come on, what's this about?" But her expression didn't change. Her eyes didn't soften. There was no trace of humor or hesitation. "You heard me," she repeated, firmer this time. "I don't need you anymore." The room fell silent. The hum of the refrigerator seemed deafening, the ticking of the clock unbearable. David's mind raced for explanations. Maybe she was upset. Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe this was just another argument that would pass. But he could see it in her eyes. She wasn't joking. She wasn't exaggerating. She meant every word. David felt his chest tighten, his breath caught between disbelief and fear. "Emily, what are you saying? After everything we've built, our kids, our life together, you don't just mean that." Her lips trembled for the briefest moment, but her voice remained steady. "I'm tired, David. Tired of being invisible. Tired of waiting for you to notice me. I've realized I don't need you." Each word was like a blade, sharp and deliberate. David wanted to argue, to reach across the table, to remind her of every laugh they'd shared, every struggle they'd overcome, every moment that proved they were more than this. But his throat closed and no words came. He sat frozen, staring at the woman he thought he knew better than anyone in the world, realizing she was now a stranger to him. In that moment, the air itself seemed to shift. The life he thought was unshakable suddenly felt fragile, ready to collapse with the weight of those 5 words. "I don't need you." And deep down, David knew she meant it. The morning after those crushing words, David woke to a strange quietness. Normally, Emily would be rushing around the kitchen, preparing breakfast for the kids, reminding Sarah to put on her shoes, helping Michael pack his school bag. But this morning, nothing. The house felt like it was holding its breath. David walked into the living room and froze. By the front door sat a small suitcase, one he recognized instantly. Emily's, the same one she used on their weekend trips years ago. She was standing nearby, her back turned, zipping it up. "Emily," David's voice cracked. "What are you doing?" She didn't look at him, didn't explain. Instead, she turned quietly, bent down, and kissed Sarah on the forehead. Then Michael, so softly that the kids barely stirred from their sleepy haze. And just like that, she picked up the suitcase. No tears, no shouting, no slammed doors, just silence. "Wait!" David called out, his chest tightening as panic shot through him. "Emily, please, we can talk about this. Don't just walk away." But she didn't stop. Her hand gripped the doorknob, and for the briefest moment, David thought she might turn back. That maybe she would look at him, give him one last reason, one last word, one last chance. But she didn't. The door opened. Cold morning air rushed in, and Emily walked out without a second glance. David stood there, paralyzed, the echo of her footsteps fading down the driveway. The house felt emptier than it ever had before. He grabbed his phone, his hands shaking, and dialed her number, ring after ring. No answer. He sent a text. "Emily, please, don't do this. Let's talk." Silence. Another text. "For the kids' sake, at least answer me." Again, nothing. Every minute stretched into an eternity. Each unanswered call carved deeper into his chest. When Sarah came down the stairs and asked, "Where's Mommy?" David felt his throat close. He forced a smile, told her she had to go out, though he could barely hold back the tears. That morning, sunlight spilled across the floor, but instead of warmth, it only illuminated the emptiness she left behind. Emily was gone, and she hadn't even looked back. A week had passed since Emily walked out. The silence of the house was deafening. Every corner still carried her presence. The faint scent of her perfume in the hallway, the coffee mug she used to drink from, the scarf she had left draped over the couch. David clung to these remnants like a man lost at sea, searching for a piece of driftwood to keep him afloat. But the unanswered calls and ignored messages were eating him alive. He needed answers. He needed to understand how years of love could end with nothing but silence. One evening, while sorting through unpaid bills, David powered on Emily's old laptop. At first, he just meant to look for financial documents. But as he clicked through folders, his eyes landed on one innocently titled, "Trips and Memories." His heart began to race. He hesitated, his finger trembling over the mouse. A part of him didn't want to know. But the ache in his chest pushed him forward. The folder opened, and there they were, dozens of photos that made his stomach drop. Emily, smiling in ways he hadn't seen in years. Her face glowing with joy, her eyes lit with warmth, only she wasn't smiling at him. She was smiling at him. Mark, her old colleague. The man David once suspected, but had dismissed when Emily reassured him with, "He's just a friend. You don't have to worry." The photos told a different story. Emily and Mark walking along a beach, their fingers entwined. The two of them leaning across a candle-lit dinner table, eyes locked, laughter frozen in a frame. A selfie of them, close enough that David felt like an intruder just by looking at it. Each image was another dagger twisting in his chest. He scrolled further. Hotels, vacations, little notes in picture captions that spoke of a life David had never been a part of. A life she had been building while he worked late nights, chasing promotions to give her a future. His vision blurred. His breathing turned shallow. He slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing through the empty kitchen like thunder. And then something inside him broke. David slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold tiles of the floor, his head in his hands. The weight of betrayal crushed him, pressing against his ribs until it was hard to breathe. Tears streamed down his face, hot and relentless, as he whispered to no one but himself, "Why, Emily?" Why? For the first time in years, he felt utterly invisible. The betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight or a confession. It was hidden in secret smiles, in stolen moments, in the way she had chosen someone else long before she told David, "I don't need you." He had been holding on to a life that, in her heart, was already over, and now, staring at the broken pieces, he realized he had been the last to know, the last to understand that the woman he loved had already replaced him, long before she walked out the door. The days after his discovery blurred together. David could barely eat, could barely sleep. The kids noticed the emptiness in his eyes, though he tried to hide it with forced smiles and shaky reassurances. Inside, he was unraveling. Every night he sat on the living room couch, phone clutched in his hand, waiting for Emily's name to light up his screen. It never did, so he called. Again and again. The sound of her voicemail greeting became a cruel reminder that she was choosing silence over him. "Emily, please." His voice cracked in one message. "We need to talk. For the kids, at least. Don't shut me out like this." No reply. His texts grew longer, spilling with emotion. "I know you. This isn't you. I know something's wrong. We can fix this. Just give me a chance." Still nothing. Some days his anger bled through. "After everything I gave, this is how you leave." Without a word. Without a fight. Other days, his words were drenched in grief. "I can't sleep, Emily. The kids miss you. I miss you. Please come home." But silence was all she gave him, until one morning his phone finally buzzed. A message. His heart leapt with hope as he scrambled to open it. It was only 4 words. "I'm happy. Don't contact me again." David stared at the screen, the words burning into him like fire. His hands shook as the phone slipped from his grasp, landing on the couch beside him. That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just a sentence that erased a decade of marriage, years of laughter, struggles, children, and promises. The house felt colder than ever. That night, David sat in the dark living room, staring at the shadows stretching across the walls. He could almost hear her laughter echoing through the hallway, the way she used to hum while folding laundry, the way she chewed her lip when she was deep in thought. But now those memories weren't his anymore. They belonged to someone else. The silence she left behind was louder than any argument they had ever had, and in that silence, David understood something terrible. Emily wasn't coming back. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Weeks bled into months. On the surface, David learned how to function again. He woke up early, packed Sarah's lunch, helped Michael tie his shoelaces, and kept the house from falling apart. To the outside world, he looked like a father holding it all together, but inside, he was fractured. Every time he walked past the bedroom, a sharp ache reminded him of the space Emily once occupied. He'd glance at the empty side of the bed and feel the weight of her absence pressed down on him all over again. One night, when the kids had finally drifted off to sleep, David opened the drawer on her old side of the bed. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Closure, maybe, or just proof that she had once truly belonged to him. Inside were small remnants of her life there, an old scarf that still carried her faint perfume, a pen with her initials etched into the side, and a faded photograph of the two of them at a fair years ago. David held them against his chest and sobbed, not just for what Emily had done, but for the life they had built that now existed only in memory. That night, he realized something that cut deeper than the betrayal itself. Sometimes the most painful goodbyes are the ones without words, the ones that leave you staring at empty chairs and silent hallways, wondering how love can vanish without a fight. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and cruel because it offers no explanation. No closure, only silence. Over time, though, David began to understand a truth he had never wanted to face. People don't always leave because you aren't enough. Sometimes they leave because they've convinced themselves they need someone else more. The ache never fully left him. But slowly, he began to reclaim pieces of himself. He found joy in small moments, the way Sarah's laughter filled the house when she played in the yard, the pride on Michael's face when he learned to ride his bike without training wheels. In those moments, David realized his life hadn't ended. It had changed. He began to cook meals with the kids, turning dinner time into messy but joyful experiments. He read stories at night, voices exaggerated to make Sarah giggle and Michael grin. He started to find comfort, not in what he had lost, but in what he still had, and in the quiet of the evenings, when the children were asleep and the house was silent, David would sit by the window. Sometimes he still heard her voice echoing in his mind, "I don't need you." But over time, those words stopped sounding like an insult. They became a reminder of how fragile trust can be. A reminder that love is complex, unpredictable, and sometimes fleeting. And a reminder that even when someone walks away, life doesn't end, because hearts can break, but they can also heal. And one day, David believed his would too. Even now, long after Emily walked away, David sometimes hears her words echo in his mind. "I don't need you." But those words no longer cut the way they once did. They've become a reminder of how fragile trust can be, of how dangerous unspoken distance becomes, and of how easily love can slip away if it's not cherished. David's story isn't just about betrayal, it's about survival, about finding light in the darkest nights, about realizing that even when someone you loved with all your heart leaves without looking back, life still has meaning. And love can still be found, even if it's just in the laughter of your children or the strength you never knew you had. If you've ever been left behind, if you've ever given your everything only to be met with silence, know this: you are not alone. And if David's story touched your heart, then please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that broken hearts can heal. Because sometimes the most powerful healing comes from knowing that others have walked through heartbreak and found the courage to live again.